300 Rise of Empire is a film that is mediocre in my opinion. I mean, if they would have just followed the story from the last 300 movie, follow Queen Gorgo and her army, then this would have been an entertaining film. But in my opinion, this movie is very underwhelming. Man, when I say underwhelming, I mean this movie is underwhelming. You want to talk about boredom? I was bored with this film, simply because of the story. You see, this movie takes place before, during, and after the events of the first film, and it's loosely based on some Greek battles that happened in the past. In other words, it's not accurate. But what I really found this film boring was some of the characters. Now, I want to get the positives out the way. Eva Green actually did a great job playing Artemisia. She was very menacing, she was cunning, she was sexy, and she is a formidable character. And then you have Sullivan Stapleton, who had played Themistocles. He was alright. Quite frankly, I ain't really care much about his character. And some characters from the first film do return, such as King Xerxes. We find out about his backstory in this film. David Wyndham returns as Delirios. And of course you have Lena Headey, who returns once again as Queen Gorgo. But all those roles are drastically reduced in favor of telling a different type of story. I honestly tried to like this film over the years, but I just could never bring myself to it simply because of how much this film is different and just totally not what 300 is about. I would have preferred a movie that had followed Queen Gorgo, gathering an army, and then just straight up being a badass. We get a little bit of that in this film, but it's nowhere near enough to keep my attention. If the only good things I had liked about this film, other than what I mentioned before, is obviously its action sequences, some of the music, the visual effects was interesting. But man, what is this over-stylized gore and far too much slow motion used in this film? Seriously, at the end of the day, this movie cannot live up to the original 300 film. I wish Eva Green was in the first film simply because we get some character development from her. She is the sister of King Xerxes, and we see their interactions a little bit all throughout this film. But she's kind of like that tragic character who fell upon bad times and then became the villain. And so I wanted to see some more of her backstory, but basically she stole every scene she was in. Like, Eva Green certainly didn't save this movie, not in my opinion. She kept it somewhat interesting. Now granted, if we would have followed the Spartans that was at the end of the first 300 film, then that would have been a very compelling movie. I mean, the characters that survived at the end of the first film, this one, they get a back seat. And I don't like that. I mean, it was always going to be a tall order for this film to live up to original, but I just wish they tried a little harder. Nonetheless, this film is just mediocre. I wasn't entertained by it. I didn't care about some of the characters in the film. And then King Xerxes being the big threat he was in the first movie. He's not that much of a compelling villain in this one. Still, nonetheless, this film's not the worst movie I ever seen. I've seen far worse films over the years, but this is nowhere near as great as the first movie in my opinion. I'm giving this film a 5 out of 10. This movie, it just didn't hold my attention. A less engaging plot, inferior characters other than Artemisia, and of course, a movie that was just a giant letdown in my opinion. I mean, if you're going to make a sequel to one of the best films that Zack Snyder had made, then you damn well better have a great story, and this movie just didn't do that. I just found this film boring, dull. It just didn't have the charm and the heart that the original film had. Still, nonetheless, I have read about mixed reviews over the years, but a lot of those mixed reviews have been negative. A lot of people don't like this film. I don't like it. And I thought this film had a lot going for it if it had more of an interesting plot. But at the end of the day, this movie was just truly a dumpster fire. And that's my review of the film 300 Rise of an Empire. Alright, leave your comments down below in the section and let me know what you think about this film. Okay, this is Slim Guy 172 saying peace out.